Welcome to the podcast. Martyn. Today we discuss primarily SaaS in Indonesia, building from Indonesia, for the world, and a lot more around it. Let's just begin with an introduction first. Martyn, a lot of folks know him. So let's start with you, Marvel, and then we'll go to Martyn.
Yeah. So I'm Marvel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Covena AI. We built AI field agents that help customers convert their WhatsApp inquiries into bookings or payments. And we work with, mid-market companies to enterprises to basically transform their WhatsApp channel into a sales channel.
How long you been building this?
It's been around 2 years. We started off as like an AI consultancy and then we pivoted towards this direction.
And it's your first venture?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. And before this, what were you doing?
Before this, actually, it was actually my second venture. Before this, I did another venture before. It was something in ed tech and education. Obviously, the industry being a very hard one, didn't end up working out as a lot of people have found out now. But then this was around when I was in the US, I think around 3-4 years ago.
When did you come back to Indonesia?
2023.
2023, and that's when you started Covena.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Martyn?
Yeah, so my background's quite different to most of the startup people. I'm much older, obviously, and spent 18 years in Tokyo and Hong Kong in finance, in banking, and working for hedge funds. Then I basically started up my own boutique investment company. And originally, Bvarta, as we are called now, was one of my investments. And co-invested with one of the, I would say, oligarch families here. And in the end, I bought them out and decided the only way to do this was come and live here and work the business myself. So basically, I'm in a bit of a strange situation. I'm also the investor in the company, along with some friends of mine who are co-investors. We don't have VCs. We do location analytics software. So everyone talks about location. We help companies find the best location to do what they want. And again, I'm not a tech person, but when this was first explained to me as a concept, it makes real sense to me because Indonesia has data all over the place. Indonesia is logistically challenged. So if I can be in a position where I can help clients make better decisions based on the location, I think there's a lot of potential there. So that's how I originally got into it. We've been in 7 years. We are now offices in 4 countries. We have over 150 staff, mainly still here, but we have an increasing team in Ho Chi Minh and also head office in Singapore and also in Japan now. Japan particularly because I spent 12 years there. And my partners are Japanese. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. What you'll see in this podcast, it's, I'm actually only 28. And you just look, the grey hairs, doing what we actually do here. Software as a service. And what we're trying to do has been extremely challenging. And I think we'll discuss that more.
Sure. Thank you, Martyn. Marvel, to you, why did you decide to build SaaS from Indonesia? Was it the market that looked ripe enough to get started, or what else?
Yeah, I don't think it was a very, market analysis type reason, to be completely honest. It was more so a familial reason for me. I'm an only child. I grew up an only child, even when I went to the States. My parents always like, make sure you come back, right? So I sort of stayed very Asian, very Indonesian in particular. Sure. And so it was more so that, I think, number one. But number two, I also saw the opportunity given, I was studying in the Bay Area. I went to Berkeley, by the way, and back in the Bay Area.
Name dropping.
Yeah, well, that was more so about Pepperdine, or is it? Well, more so a fact. But I went there, saw a lot of the AI advancements in the Silicon Valley area. This was when it was 2022, 2023 era, where it was like, I think, peak AI, and I just realized, hey, this might be something that I can help out, come back, build something while also, serving that familiar purpose of wanting to be close to my parents.
Sure. 7 years for you now,
Yeah.
Martyn, starting Bvarta. I'm sure a lot of learnings, starting from building the product up in the first place, along with the team.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first part of any SaaS journey, which is building the tech itself, right? My personal opinion, I personally feel that now we have enough talent locally in Indonesia to build things grounds up. How's been your experience, Martyn? Because 7 years back is what we're talking.
I think it's hard, right? My position was really hard because I'm not a tech guy.
Sure.
I mean, when I told people I'd invested in a tech company, they think it's normal. When I told people I'm coming to run it, they think, what? And I never planned to. I've only really been the CEO of this company for 2 years. And my company's really run by a local Chinese lady, to be honest. I just make sure nobody steals the money and I've got the relationships with people, both here and also overseas. Because I spent a long time in Asia finance, I already had a few good contacts here. But what my challenge was the tech side. I knew nothing about it.
Sure.
And I would say that 7 years, I was at a meeting with someone this morning. I was saying I could have probably done it in 3 or 4 if I'd done it right. But I learned about the hard way many times.
Yeah.
My original partnership, as I said, I thank them for it now, but I was brought here by one of their local families, oligarch families, and didn't really work out. We had a very different plan, and that was the first setback. We kind of separated, and we already had government contracts because of their help, and it's quite stressful. Then I hired people who talked a good game and they had great educational attainment, and then I realized that they weren't that good, and they just thought they were good, and it was hard for me to judge. And that's not just Indonesia. I've hired people overseas as well that, in my opinion, weren't as good as I couldn't judge it. If I was hiring if I was starting a broker shop here or a hedge fund, I'd get the best talent. I could talk to them in 2 seconds and get the best. I know what I'm looking for. No one can bullshit me in that business. But here, unfortunately, a lot of people bullshitted me. And I ended up with a lot of people who, some weren't very good and some didn't really care because they thought, well, the bully doesn't really understand. So we'll just do what we have to do and we'll do the minimum and it doesn't matter. So yeah, I had many problems like that. But I'm lucky now. A couple of years ago, the good team in there now, very, very good CTO. A very good deputy CEO they're a local. We brought in some good people and basically my team now is very strong in the development because a lot of them are attorneys. They're not cheap. So I've got a few guys who are Silicon Valley guys.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's all different now than when I first started when I guess most of my developers couldn't speak English. Now some of them went to these schools, so I'm paying a lot more. However, the quality of the product's gone up a lot more. Now, I during the COVID thing, I just didn't have the cash to compete with the big boys. These big boys were hiring people ridiculous money, like Singapore salaries in Indonesia. It was very, very hard when in the tech bubble. And I was like, well, how can I compete with these guys? I mean, it's my own money. I have money, but I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars. So it was very, very difficult to build that at first because also mid-level people were getting paid ridiculous money at the big, the go-tos of this world, right? So these guys who weren't absolute superstars getting paid superstar money. So how could I compete? So that, I think that was so it was a real challenge building the team, to be honest. And I would say it's been trial and error.
What's your read of the situation now in terms of tech talent availability?
I think a lot of it, from our perspective, came with a new CTO because the new CTO was already very respected.
And he brought
people. Yeah, he basically changed the whole tech team. Not everybody likes him, obviously, but not everyone's there to be liked. I mean, a lot of people don't like him. I would say that we were very stable for a long time. Nobody ever left BVT because it was like BUMN maybe. the ex bosses of the company thought everyone's having fun here, isn't it? We're all relaxed, we'll go out for business lunches and expense everything to the stupid bully who's in Singapore. And these are the things which happened at first, right? But I would say the tech talent is there, but in some respects, it's not just the talent; it's the attitude. You see it everywhere. They don't. Some people just don't see. I think there's no Indonesian dream here, and people don't think they can benefit from it. Even when I talked about ESOP and stuff, people don't believe in it. People don't. I mean, I'm from a very working class family. I mean, I never went to any posh school or anything, but I made it from zero, right? People don't think, from there to banking to hedge funds, people don't think that's possible. Here, it's not possible. You've got to be related to somebody. But so trying to sell that dream to Indonesians is not always easy. So people, if they don't like what's said, people leave. And people always claim there's lots of people unemployed here. The turnover of staff in this is quite high in Indonesia still.
The attrition's pretty high.
Yeah,
on that point, Marvel, how's your experience been? It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
You are native to Indonesia. I believe you are tech as well.
Yeah.
right? So I think it's going to be a very different experience. How's been your experience? One, on the readiness. Second, readiness of the talent. And second, of course, is the cost. And third, let's talk about the Indonesian dream as well. The ESOP structure, does it excite? Is it something which folks are willing to imagine in the first place?
Right. So I think I'll tackle them in terms of those three areas that you mentioned. So I think in terms of the talent, you can separate it into, I would say, two different things. There's what I see, which is there's a hard skill set of people actually being able to code. Can they actually understand the architecture? Can they actually do proper system design? That's great. And I feel like we're a beneficiary of that because, all the tech companies that have gotten, 2010, 2012, they've thought the profit.
I have this line going on always. Sorry, Marvel.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have this line. Irrespective of all the venture capital money which was put into tech companies, I don't know if it has benefited them or it has benefited in building great companies. But one benefit has definitely happened, that because of that, we have this large pool of tech talent which is being built. I don't know how this will benefit in the future, or it has already started benefiting. But that's one positive which I always see. I know you're itching to say something.
No,
You'll come.
no.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah. But exactly. So there is definitely that pool of tech talent, whether it be, let's say, product management or engineering, at the very least more than it was maybe like 10, 15 years ago, simply because more people work on startups, right?
Sure.
And the incentives make it so that people are more incentivized to do. I think on the other hand, though, from a culture side of things, I feel like this is somewhere that, I don't know why, but I think we're still lacking. I still feel like that there is a lack of ownership, I would say, in Indonesia, where people actually give a shit about their jobs. They really care. They come in, they don't just make it work, but they make it good. Like these kind of things, I still think it's lacking. So again, even though tactical has caught up, I feel like the ownership really hasn't as much, I would say. So that's kind of like the first point. And then what was your second point again? This
The ESOP. Yeah, Indonesian dream. I mean, just quoting Martyn on Indonesian dream. But look, ESOPs have made a lot of people really independent financially across the globe, right? But I don't see that kind of excitement. I completely agree with Martyn. I don't see that kind of excitement here. Are you also facing something similar when you're making your offer letters and negotiations?
Yeah, I think there's there's the thing about ESOP and there's the thing about the Indonesian dream also, which is a bit different. But the thing about ESOP is that I think there's two, I would say, core issues after thinking about it, which is number one is the fact that when we look at past history and we look at, okay, the company, the people who are smart, they're hardworking, people who have high ownership, you look at the past companies, you're like, well, the ESOP of my senior, they materialized like 10 years ago. And so why is it that my ESOP is going to materialize, right? So they're smart about it, right? And so they're rightfully so skeptical. Obviously, they're going to tell that to us up front. But I do think that is what they're thinking about, right? Number one. Number two is the fact that, you look at the valuations of the company, etc. And, given the inflated valuations, that also affected, the point number one that I mentioned earlier, which is now these people who are have ESOPs, they're selling it, number one, they're trying to sell it for a huge discount. I mean, I know a lot of the C-levels, obviously I'm not going to name them, but you would know if I say they're trying to sell their companies.
Tell them.
Right? At like 70-80% discount.
Of course, and it's not even worth that.
Exactly. Yeah. So that becomes an issue at the basis of some compensations. Meanwhile, obviously the employers are trying to say, hey, look, this is how much your ESOP is worth. This is our based on our last valuation, but they're skeptical of that part.
And I totally disagree.
Right.
Okay, so just to summarize this point, it's going to be a yes or a no question of sorts. If someone wants to build a SaaS company out of Indonesia, do you both agree that the tech talent is available?
If you have somebody who knows how to find it.
Okay.
I think from my perspective.
But it's available.
Of course, available because I have now, but I wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been able to find them on my own.
It wasn't the case 8-9 years ago. It was very difficult.
But I'm not sure the tech talent came from all these startups because, let's be honest, most of the startups were apps. Whatever everyone says, they weren't. There's not huge amounts of coding going into a lot of it, right?
No, there's a lot of engineering coding which happens, of course, in building a super app or a tech. Do you also agree, Marvel, that tech talent is available?
Yeah, I think the tech talent is available, the engineering. The culture and ownership is something that you will definitely have to really look for.
Sure.
It's an idea.
Let's talk about sales cycles. Very different. Might be very different for both of you, considering the stage and the maturity of the product and everything. Martyn, with you, what's your typical sales cycle average?
I don't know if I can say typical. It can be all over the shop because, and I think Marvin will find this as well. What's happened a lot to us is we've gone into a big company, we've showed them what we could do, and then they tried to build it themselves.
Okay,
And then come back to us and say we can't build it ourselves. Some of the biggest companies in Indonesia have actually done that, BUMN included. So they are now my clients, but that obviously adds a long time to the cycles. So we've got one BUMN client who's one of my biggest clients now. The sales cycle was 5 years. That's crazy, but in the end, it was a good deal, and now we're doing several deals with them.
Sure.
I would say if we sell our normal software as a service product, we can get it over the line in 6 to 8 weeks actually now. So it's not that bad.
But you're able to close in 6 to 8 weeks now?
If there's an interest early, yes, I think we have done with several big companies recently, KFC, OCBC, Jardines, DFI, which is Guardian, all of them. But we have a track record now, and we've got people who are willing to say it's added revenue. You know, we've got 20% more revenue after using this. So of course it's a lot easier. We have 100 clients.
Sure.
No one believed us at the beginning. So it was like, and I was knocking on, at first I had some help, but after that I was knocking on doors. You know what I mean? So it was incredibly difficult. And I think my sales team, I've also, I think, managed to corner the market now. Because I'm a different kind of sales, but from that background, I can teach them guys. And these guys ask for the business. My guys internally are much better than any of these system integrators. I send my guys in and say, right, yeah, you give the connection, we'll pay you, let my guys deal with it. Because the time it sometimes takes with these guys is months and months and months, but that's because I think they're selling many things.
Yeah.
And they're selling stuff from the US where they get bigger margin, etc. So it's great to now have distributors, but we're not their number one priority still.
Sure.
So yeah, I think for our normal product, 6 to 8 weeks now is possible. I think all the challenge is the payment cycle.
We'll come to that.
That's when you get really screwed. That's why when Nia turned up, I was screaming down the forest.
So in this 6 to 8 weeks, Martyn, which you're telling me is from first meeting to...
it can be with the software as a service product, yeah.
I mean, it can be is another story.
Oh, no.
Is it happening with you?
It happened quite often recently. So I'm from recency bias, OCBC, KFC, Jardines, which is Guardian, all done in 6 to 8 weeks. I think Chimori, Duns, not always like that. I mean, again, when we start looking at enterprise deals, when we're building enterprise software on top of our software, so it's a modular system, that's a totally different game.
Well, that's a different game.
Because
with SaaS purely.
Of course. But I mean, I would say 6 to 8 weeks is quite feasible now. We have a totally modular system. It's feasible. And our software, I don't know how it compares to other stuff, but our software is not dirt cheap. So the minimum cost is going to be probably $20,000, $25,000 for the client. You know, and we have things you can put on top of that, data you can put on top of it, different modules you can put on top of it. So, but I think we've got a good sales team now, and even though I scream at them more for the payment cycles actually. Sure. Because signing a contract means absolutely nothing in Indonesia, and it's not just the Indonesian companies, but it's the international companies use the law here to their benefit.
Sure.
I have more problem with the international companies.
Marvin, how about you? What's your typical sales cycle?
Yeah, I mean, not really much to add. I would say a sales cycle depends on the size of the company. For enterprises, I think you're not up to 5 years, right? But I would say like 4, 5, 6 months, definitely something that
it is first into closer.
Yeah. Sometimes, we're talking to enterprise right now, we're finally getting a door. It's like a year.
No, I think also when we started, I'm much closer to that. We never closed. Let's just very quickly, I got beginner's luck. I'll never forget my beginner's luck. I called Billy, the owner of Kopi Genji Jua. I called him, and he signed up within 2 weeks. That was my first ever deal. And I thought, we're going to be billionaires. It's easy. No, he was a very easy guy to deal with, who already had looked at this, because when he was living in the US, he'd already looked at location analytics, and I just happened to call him when he was looking for a location analytics company. So that was beginner's luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very rare.
That's funny because I have the same version of that.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I cold DM someone. He was the XFE of Midtrans Ryu, and then he signed within like a week.
Yeah. That's very rare though.
And then that's it.
You think that's the start of this? Yeah.
I think we actually do.
Yeah. Never again. That never happened since. Never. But it's very funny because it was the first one, and even weirder, I was in England when I called him. Someone gave me a number, so I was like calling for like 6 o'clock in the morning, so 12 o'clock. He said, "Yeah, mate, I'll meet you." And yeah, quick.
Let's talk more about sales before we move to customer success and then payment delivery from more regular. So, do you think lead generation is more difficult in Indonesia comparatively? Because I mean, the cold calling doesn't work. The cold emailing generally does not work in limited experience, which I have. Uh, how do you guys go about generating leads? I mean, apart from Martyn's LinkedIn, which does most of his job. Well,
We do.
I know,
We
but Marvel, in your case, how do you guys go about your lead generation?
So we target, maybe unlike Martyn, we also have some clients that are more mid-market and below, right? So it's not only an enterprise only. I think the place for both are super duper different.
Yeah.
If it's mid-market and below, you can still target them via marketing, ads,
Yeah.
revisit their website, like that motion. They book a call, you sign them within like maybe 3-4 weeks, right? That's not an issue. So that's one, right? We can do that via cold outbound, etc. I think that still works. For the enterprises, though, this is the one that's most interesting. The one that we've seen is obviously we work with system leaders, distributors. But I think the most is got to hustle for those relationships, to be honest, and you got to build a network. Think about the well,
It's what my boss told me. It's the same as anything. When my boss told me in Tokyo when I just arrived, I had a blank piece of paper. I don't speak the language. And the guy said, in England, you have the coconut shy. And you throw a coconut. You throw a ball at coconuts. If you knock the coconut off, you get a prize. It's usually a fish. And he said to me, if you throw enough balls at enough coconuts, you'll win a fish. And he's right. Sometimes when I started, I used to send 500 cold messages a day. I used to sit in restaurants where I knew the people. I used to sit downstairs where I knew the people who owned the company would be. And that was it. Back in the finance days, I knew where the top hedge fund, when I was a broker, I knew where the top guys went. So I used to go and sit in the bar and pretend I didn't know who they were. Hello, mate, what do you do? Oh, all right, interesting. And then, your beer, yeah. Next minute, we're best mates. And then, by the way, I do Japanese equity. Do you want to put a line into us? Oh, yeah, mate, no problem. So there's a lot, and that's less so here, but I think it's the same for everything. I combine it. Yes, I send cold messages, and that's time consuming, but it does work. If I send 100 cold messages, I don't do it so much anymore because I don't have to. If I send 100 cold messages, I'll get at least 5 answers. So
same experience for you.
Yeah.
So you also run a cold messaging engine internally.
Yes.
For
But with that being said, I want to caveat that, which is the fact that if we really want to get into the enterprises, at least the ones that I'm talking to right now, not the modern, the more startup types, the more of a traditional, like, I really think that's the relationship. Basically, you're not going to cold email your way to, I think, a founding group, but like talk to the C-level. And even if not,
you'd be surprised.
or at least that's my experience. Even if not, if let's say we get it to maybe the head level, etc. If it's really high level, like big implementation, typically what I found is that it has to be driven from like the top down. Like it's hard to crawl your way from down all the way up and then have it be implemented that way, at least in Indo.
sales talent in Indo. Your thoughts?
I think the best people. So it's very funny. My head of sales was working in the hotel industry before. I hired so many people with great CVs who'd worked for SAP and all these great things. And anyone could. It's like working at Goldman Sachs as a trader. You can put a monkey in that job because you're order taking. You're not selling.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. If you're working at Nomura selling Japanese equities, you'd have to be pretty crap not to do well.
Yeah.
But if you're working, so it's like these guys who've sold these big institutions and they've worked in other countries, and I've got 10 years sales experience, SAP in San Diego. I've hired a few of them, waste of time because they're in a different planet. They don't adjust. They think, oh, well, people come to me. They have a completely different mentality. My sales team, and number one, they learn the product. So at first I had sales guys who didn't, even the guy, my head of sales was working in a hotel. It was just like, and he didn't start as the head of sales, but I just keep on it. I got rid of all the other people because there's so many talkers I found and they all come in wanting a big salary. And the other problem with tech sales, especially with the startup world, they weren't sales at all, most of them. They were giving the product away. A lot of it was never sales. It was so they go, oh yeah, I want this salary. And when you actually look at it, they weren't selling anything. They were getting number of users. Oh, that's not sales. So that's giving stuff away or even paying to get people to use stuff. So I found it hard to get a sales team, but now, I've got a decent sales team, but they're very young, dynamic. And I found that hiring the people with the big brands in sales, and also everybody here, just last thing, what I learned about here, everybody here claims to know people. Because I didn't realize You can get a picture with anyone here, and it's easy. You know, these guys are walking. In England, we don't go around getting pictures with politicians, right? We're not interested, right? But here, you'll just get, you know, the various politicians sat around it, and everyone comes in with a pic. Oh no, they say him, they say him, they say him. I'm like, yeah. At first, I thought, oh, you know him, well, great. You can come and work for me. And then I realized that, yeah, he was just outside. He was just at some one of these many events, and he went there to get pictures with people. So, pictures with people, and yeah, even I've gone in here and worked with the elites here, and actually, I've one of my I would say commissioners is one of the elites, and they're not hungry enough. So again, they don't. It doesn't work when you're already super rich. You know, it's like what they say about the boxers in when it's hard to get up in the morning to train when you're wearing silk pajamas. These guys are not hungry. I'm hungry because it's my own money. So I get up every morning and knock on doors, and my team do that because they see the opportunity, because we have a total meritocracy. So they can see that the people, after years of hiring the wrong people who were expensive, they now see that I hire the better people and they get to the top. So they can see the progress, how they can actually get somewhere. So yeah, again, hard to get them, but when you get them, they're good. But I never knew what I was looking for. I don't know what I was looking for. I mean, because first, what Easy said about connections. Everybody knows it's all over the internet, but my first partner here had massive connections. But yes, we can get deals, but there's a lot of complications, right? And then other people who've got loads of connections, do they really want to work hard because they're already, and they're working with 20 other companies as well. And then there's so much of that going on here. So cutting through the noise, everybody knows everybody. All these big guys have a group of people who hang around them, and they all claim to know everybody. So there's so much noise. At the end of the day, the team who've done best for me are a group of guys who had none of them had connections. I have some, and I use mine, and now they have some. But none of the guys who came to me with all these crazy who they knew, what they knew, none of it's worked out. And the ones who worked well are the guys who've come, see my story starting from zero in Japan, see how there's a potential to do well if you and see there's an opportunity for them to grow. They're the guys who've done well for me. But again, it's back to the tech talent. It's trial and error. I guess the only difference is I knew what I was looking for more in the sales.
How about you, Marvel? I mean, what's your thought on sales talent availability in Indonesia?
I would say for me, it's a bit too early to tell. We haven't built, a 5, 10%, 20% sales team yet. So it's far too to tell. What I know for sure is that it's what you're looking for is something different. Very, very different from what you're looking for in the States. I feel like that's what I've seen here. People don't get deals here by being like, okay, cool, you ready with the line? Okay, cool, you want to move to a trial and a POC? That's great, right? Let's go on. I don't meet the person. Even if they said yes, almost always they'll drop off right after. Right within 2 weeks. So you need someone that's completely different than like in the US or even in Singapore, right? The day they yes, it's yes. If no, it's no. Ideally, even in Singapore, like maybe you don't even want to have your salespeople to be meeting with clients as inefficient, or they can just have it all through online meetings. But I think what I'm looking for, what I found, at least from Indonesia, based on me speaking in Indo versus closing deals in Singapore versus the ones in the US, is the fact that in Indo, the types of salespeople you're looking for are more so people who are okay with, being in person, grabbing coffee, like building that work relationship. And actually, they are okay with that kind of like sales motion versus the one that's always like, very, very direct to the point, like the ones that I would maybe look for in Singapore and more US markets.
It's interesting you say that, because it's very interesting to say that, because I'm literally told by everyone. In Japan, I was told I'm too direct to get anywhere. When I first turned up in Japan, I was told I'm too direct to get anywhere in Japan. You can't do that, boss. You can't do that, boss. I ended up being one of the biggest foreigners in Japanese equity sales, right? Came to Indonesia, the same situation. I'm very direct. I mean, because I don't have all this respect for people like politicians, so these lot see me. I just like contact Ahok directly and say, mate, can you follow my Instagram? I just don't care, right? And because I've known some of these guys, so I am direct, and I actually think directness works here. People say it doesn't, but not rudeness, but directness. I mean, I make it very. I mean, it's funny when I sometimes go to meetings because they know. Even like a couple of weeks ago, one of the big telcos, I met the CEO, and he was quite scared because I was like, right, mate, this is the way it's going to be. This has been going on for bloody ages. Come on, I kind of make a joke of it as well, right? Because he knows me. Make a bit of a joke of it. But I find being direct's not as bad as people want to make it say. Because I have a lot of people I've got a lot of advisors who are not required. I've a lot of people here who are kind of these middlemen who think they know everybody, always sending me LinkedIn messages. Back, you can't do that back in Indonesia. You'll never do anything. I'm saying, no, you can't. And that's why you're doing nothing. I've got over 100 clients, man. You can't. So I sometimes think that's not, everybody says it, but I mean, I'm very direct with people. Maybe it's just my human nature, and people just like, it's me. I mean, the guys who don't like me is, the VC guys, because I'm totally direct to them. But the top guys, the guys who own MEP and stuff, they think I'm funny. I just go, come on. When I go visit these guys in like Plaza Indonesia and stuff, I push it quite hard with them. I think they think, well, this guy's, especially the local chindos, I think they think, well, this guy's actually trying to do it. And he hasn't got all this money like all these other, he's not just talking about it, he's actually doing it. So I think there's some level of respect when you're doing that, actually. So people don't mind,
Yeah, I think it depends on like the segmentation of, I would love to go into a conversation as to like, what are the archetypes of people who you typically close with that approach? Because the ones that, because that's an interesting, I think
from my experience in Indonesia, they slowly catch a monkey. You don't get anywhere. They just delay. I mean, I'd rather lose everything. For my attitude, is get on to the next one if they're not going to buy it. In the early days, we spent all this time meeting people 7, 8, 9. After that, you're not going to get the deal after 7, 8, 9 meetings. So you best work out on the third meeting. Are these guys serious or not? And if not, talk to me next year when you got the money. People like having meetings here. I don't like having meetings. I don't. My time is money. When I come here to meet people, like sit in Paul's and tell them to come and see me. I'm very, very direct like this. I do not want to have meetings, and I have a lot to do. I'm trying to make this business successful. And I've also realized the top guys are like that. All these middlemen just going to sit around Paul's phone and just chat all day long. I go there and it's always the same people. I go there maybe once every 2 weeks, and I just back-to-back meetings and just try to push it. But luckily, I think now my sales guys, they're kind of taking it on board. So mostly about business has to be signed off higher up the food chain, I would say. Nearly everything is big companies. So, Danone, Simori, just doing something with Apple, Hyundai, they're all. So it depends what company it is. If it's an international company, it's a little, what I generally do is if I have a connection with the C-level, like in Danone, I know Pac Laurent, not Pac, he's French. I've known him because he's part of this Castle Asia networking group I'm part of. So I contact him when I know my guys are going in there. You know what I mean? So we've got something at Jabba Becker at the moment. My guys are proper tender with Jabba Becker. A couple of weeks ago, I had breakfast with Pac Damono, who's the founder of Jabba Becker. I know. So we try to do it both ways. And I just say, guys, don't you dare do business with anyone else. We're the only local company doing this, blah. And I just go right into it. But like, you're the guys, you always talk about local talent. I've done it. So if I find out you've bought this from a US company, we're not going to be friends. So but make it humorous as well. Most of the businesses, the bigger guys, yeah.
What do you guys think about the fact that we barely have, I think not even handful, of Indonesian SaaS companies who have successfully gone abroad, who have successfully started selling in other parts of the world? Why is that the case? I mean, we spoke about the tech talent, it's available. And it's SaaS at the end of the day, right? If you built it, with some tweaks, you should be able to deploy it elsewhere as well. The business problems, to my little understanding, business problems remain 70 to 80% same, right? Mawul, what do you think? I understand it's just been 2 years for you. I just want to get where you are in your mind with this thing. And how do you plan to tackle it?
I think the two reasons that comes to mind immediately is, I would say, talent and product quality. This is just right off the top of my head. I would say in terms of the talent standpoint, to create a really good company that can go global, that can go out, sell to multiple countries, etc. Again, not saying that it's impossible to do it. Obviously, Martyn, you've done it as well. But it takes a really special team and special talent, right? Like, to be completely honest, like if you have everyone that's here, local, they have no international exposure, it's really hard for you to actually crack a market outside. Oftentimes, just to have a team that has like international exposure. There's like international guys, maybe they came from Silicon Valley, they come here, or they came from like Europe or like other countries, come back and then actually want to build for outside. But the thing is, it's very expensive, right? And these people have a lot of options. So the question is, why would these people want to come into Indonesia, for example, and work for like an Indonesian company building for Globe when they can work for a Singaporean company that's building for Globe, or where they can work for a US company that's building for Globe?
Fair enough.
So now it becomes very hard to attack the talent, which then becomes a doom cycle, right?
Yeah.
Now you don't have the best product, and then now you can't have talent. So that's
Sure.
that's one obviously thing. This is a downside. There's some upsides to it. Number two is in terms of the product quality. I think if you start out, I would say again, and I've had clients Singapore, US, and then Indo, especially people who are in Singapore. I feel like they have a much higher bar for what they tolerate in terms of product and the product quality and how it functions. Versus if the culture and the DNA of the companies focus on, let's say, Indonesia just to begin with, then the product feedback might be less, the quality might be less, and then therefore when you try to then take this product go to market to a more developed market like Singapore, you're competing with all these countries who've already been ironed out by like all the tough feedback from like these developed markets, right? And so now you have less product, and again you get back to the doom cycle again. So those are the two, I think, cons. Obviously, I can talk about the pros, but that wasn't the question. So,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Martyn?
I never thought, what he says is correct to an extent, I think, for sure. I have to give it slightly differently as well. I think one of the main problems here is Indonesia suffers because of its population. And I think because everyone just talks about population. Most startups here don't even try to go overseas, especially the ones, and this is not controversial because I said it on Epoch. I was talking to the owner of Pluang, right, and having a chat with Claudia, and it's well documented, and they haven't really got strategy to go overseas because they've got an advantage here because who their connections are here. And this is what I find here. A lot of these startups here have connections here, and there's huge population. I see it a very different way. I see the bottom of the pyramid being too big to ever succeed 100% in Indonesia, but especially everyone wants to be B2C. There's something. The money was not available. I remember meeting some of these guys when I first came. All the money was going to B2C because you can ramp up the valuation in B2C. It's number of users in B2C, remember. Everybody, even people wanting me to turn my product in a B2C product because, you can get high valuation, right? When these guys were raising money, they were raising money not off the revenue necessarily, or even if the revenue is often paid for. So we discussed last time, all these MSME tech, they just went around paying people to download that and then say they have 400,000 users now. So obviously that's not a real business in the first place. Obviously it's going to collapse. So there's so many of these businesses were never set. This is the answer. Most startups in Indonesia in the past were not necessarily even set up to be successful. That's why all the founders left very early. Most of the startups in Indonesia were set up on a valuation play, and that is reality. And that is one of the problems. And the people who are trying to do it properly have very strong connections here, who they can say, my dad is this, I can raise money here. So you look at the startups here, a lot of them are kids of these groups, like who are the investors in this group, they're like Japfar, it's her dad and all this, right? Her uncles.
No, fair enough. So fair enough, Martyn. But having said that, I'm sorry to cut you. But on that point, right? When we're talking purely about from a SaaS perspective, even if you look at the overall size of Indonesia market, the number of enterprises and even mid-market customers, slightly mid-marketish customers, one, they have the appetite to pay. Second, there is definitely a need because things are very manual internally. I still keep wondering why there aren't many Indonesian companies building.
There's no VC investment. Where's all the VC investment going? It's gone. I'm lucky. I have my own capital. I never need the VC. How many of the people like that? Most of the people who've got the wealthy people here want to use OPM, other people's money. It all comes back for where's the money going? In Singapore, money goes into real tech, right? And therefore, what he said, you're right. They hire the right people. I had money, but nowhere near the money that I had nowhere near the money Ular and people had, even though I built proper software, right? Yeah. Nowhere near the money they had. If I had the money they had, I'd be all over the globe by now. So the money was there because the fast dollars was there. That's what I say in all these podcasts, and that's probably why people know this now. If you have no investment in the software as I remember my old friend who's now in prison saying a few years ago that basically, B2B in Indonesia is not ready for B2B. Indonesia is not ready for this. And what he meant was, I can't bullshit the price in B2B, but if I'm dealing with fishermen or farmers or MSMEs, I can absolutely bullshit the price, right? You can't do it.
Opaque out there. Right?
You can't do that in my business because if you want to, look, I've got some people I'm talking to now. First time ever, I'm talking to some large international investors to go this globally. Won't be huge and they won't get a great deal, but we've got a data room which has contracts in it. contracts with Pertamina, with Telkomsel, with Accenture. You can't just say, oh, I've got 100 clients, each client pays me this. And that's what went on in that world. So I think the biggest problem was there was no investment. Everything went on fast dollars. There was no real innovation. Even a lot of the guys who were doing AI were not doing AI. They just knew they could get money because the family connections. So let's be honest, all them startups, them group of people, both the VCs and the startups, a lot of them are mates. And some of them I know well, some of them even invited me into some of these really dodgy deals where you go in first and then they've already arranged the VC to come in at 10x next. That's what a lot of these kids are doing here. That's not a way, and remember the founders, all of them exit very quickly. Even the big ones, the founders can't get out quick enough. Wonder why that is, right? I mean, all these guys like to do the old exit left. Oh, my country, I'll go into politics. What's a load of nonsense? These people are leaving because they know it's about to go to shit. The other one is a lot of them run monolithic systems that are not transferable overseas. It's amazing. Even I had the problem in my company. When my new CTO came in, he just laughed at me when I told him I was going to Japan next year. He said, "You're not." And I said, "What?" I was like, "You can't take that to Japan." He said, "There's so many problems with the architecture." And I'm
You can't take the product to Japan.
I brought it to Japan. So now I know all about this because we've had to rebase it, but the clients didn't know. We rebuilt it from the back to make it fully modular. So everything's now we've rebuilt. But most of these guys, they've done that because look at Tokopedia. When they got bought, they only bought it for the license. They just ripped out all the local software because it wasn't good enough. They just ripped it all out, and it's exactly the same as Grab and go together. So the trouble was the mass amount of investment, all this money that went into companies, most of the money that's gone into startups in Indonesia went on marketing and paying for revenue. It didn't go into innovation. It didn't go into bringing the best talent to So because the money's not been there, that's the issue. And I don't know if you've had VC funding yourself, but generally the VCs wanted the B2C because they wanted to play the population play. And they never had a strategy to go out of the country. I always planned to go to Japan because I had very strong connections there. Like not family connections, but I was there a long time. And I think that's one of the major challenges here. Their plan, I believe, across a lot of this world was a get-rich-quick scheme. Let's pump the valuation and get out. So that kind of stops there being innovation, right? Because people know it's taken me 7 years to get where I am today, and I'm nowhere near where I need to be. And my original partner, who's one of the elites, had no interest in taking 7 years to build a product. No interest whatsoever. That was, no, we're gonna ping it up and get the hell out of here, mate. And that, I think that the idea of pump and dump, which was brought by a few, there's a lot of smart kids in Indonesia, and I'm sorry, but they don't get access to the capital because they're not in that group of people. They're not US educated, they're ITB. I know loads of kids like that, and they don't get the access. So if the investors are not investing into B2B and not investing into SaaS, how can you grow the business? Sure. Even the biggest tech companies in Indonesia, like Metrodata, they generally are just distributors of foreign software.
Yeah.
Thousands of employees. So there isn't the appetite. And when you talk to like Pak Jaja, you talk to these guys, they're like amazed. You built yourself. It's still a middleman economy in many respects. I think that's the reality.
That's true. Let's talk about some of the other challenges of building a SaaS company from Indonesia. Right, there always has to be a home advantage, right? If you're building from a particular place, like for example, I'm building a SaaS out of India, my idea would be that, okay, hey, listen, let me expand quickly in India, get some customers, and then I move out.
Yeah.
Right. Here, what I have seen is that a lot of well-intentioned, good founders who started building SaaS were not able to quickly scale within the country itself. Right. So here we are talking about longer sales cycles. Here we are talking about longer implementation cycles. Look, implementation is both ways, right? It's your tech, you are implementing it, but you need to have the readiness as well as support from the prospect or the customer end. And then it is talking about the payments, right? The delays in your collections. So talk to us about that part. Marvel, I don't know if you've already reached that piece where your payments are getting delayed.
Sometimes, yes.
But yeah, talk to us.
And that's another reason just very quickly, that's another reason why software as a service is a struggle here. Because unless you independently got money, and the cost of supply chain finance is very expensive, particularly for like PMA. So unless you've got money, you couldn't do what I have to do with the constant. I've got to pay for data up front, but they pay me in 90 days. There's a huge problem with that thing. And that's another reason where this software as a service isn't necessarily attractive to maybe the investors or some founders who don't have their own capital.
Bobby?
Yeah. I think for me, there's one particular reason that I know for sure is that it's hard to penetrate to get that, insane level of scale in Indonesia because obviously slow sales cycles as well. But I would say that, which I think is actually a really, really big factor because if you were to look at, let's say, the mid-market here, if you look at it in the US, right, if you're looking at the mid-market here, maybe we serve a lot of clinics and they have like people who have like 1, 2, 3 clinics, for example, let's say. For us to be able to convert them, we have to meet them in person. At the reason we need to at least have 2 meetings, and like a few email exchanges, right? Versus if you look at it in Singapore and US or just more developed countries, it's like, I'm just going to go on their website, log in, put in my credit card, that's it.
That doesn't work here. We tried to do that, and it was like
Exactly. So I have another of one of my quotes, which I always keep using whenever I'm speaking to SaaS.
The amount of quotes you any.
It's big.
No, I'm always stealing them on my. I always steal them. He's on my WhatsApp. I'll get his WhatsApp updates. Oh, I'll steal that one. Who does he give the
So the thing goes like this: that if you want to do a $500 MRR sales, or you want to close a 50,000 MRR sales, the amount of effort, the number of meetings, and in most cases the time is going to be the same here.
Yeah.
In Indonesia,
I go nuts with them.
WIP is a big problem.
Yeah.
If you are a scaling SaaS company, because you would want your mid-market motion to work in one direction while you chase enterprise. Here, not much friction. Here, of course, you keep building and tweaking the product and more.
I was going to say something then, but I thought I better not. No. And there's very rarely, I think that, to be fair. No, we just took a client on recently, and I got some money into the bank, and I was like, "What's this for? Like tonight? We're going out tonight or something?" I mean, yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the small deals because, as you said, what you've just said, and yeah, I try to stop them doing it, but yeah, sometimes somebody calls in, and so generally we have our software is annual, and it's it used to be because it was monolithic. You can only buy for the whole country, so now you can buy it by a city, by a province, by everything. So it's much easier. So we can have the smaller guys now.
Sure.
But I don't target them if they call us in or something like that. So we've done a couple recently for like regional things, but some of them are brilliant for marketing, by the way. We recently, we won't name the company. What was the company? Warren something. I don't think it's big, but it's not small. But I've never come across it. And it's they did a Instagram post about our software, and it really got us like 400 inquiries. It's unbelievable.
Oh, wow.
Got us that's why recently we've done a few smaller deals because I think they're not in Jakarta, they're in a province, right? But they did Instagram of showing how they used our software to choose the location. And we had so many leads on Instagram. That's another reason I've been pushed to use Instagram now. LinkedIn I use, and it's me, and I don't have time to do Instagram, but because I sometimes get tagged by good people, I've been asked to do it now. But yeah, so now off the back of that, we do have these like more provincial companies, and so we do, but those we don't spend a lot of time on, which really try not to, because it's what you said is exactly true. The earlier days we were like, I'm going to see Pertamina, it's taking me the same time to meet some guy who's going to pay me like 50 million rupees. It's not worth it. It's just not. And and every time, especially when I've hired people from these who are startup experts, and all of them straight away, they say, "Oh no, you're doing it wrong, boss. You need to get them a credit card and all this." I'm like, guys, no one's going to buy this on credit card. It's quite a complicated concept. This is not a CRM. This is not like a lead generation thing. People are going to have to see it shown. People are going to have this is why we win in Indonesia, because our competitors are either too small here, and the other international guys, they're trying to do it over. They don't have an office here really. They're trying to do distributors who have too much other stuff to do, and they don't really have the time here, and they don't have people on the ground here.
Sure.
They can't go and sit down. Like we went to sit down yesterday with Shell and do full presentations, full demonstrations. They don't have that. I don't mind spending an afternoon at Shell because it'll be big ticket stuff, right? But
Makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, I think, again, this is all about, in my opinion, come back to the VCs and all this. All these guys were pushing like crazy, number of clients, and MSME tech particularly, because there's how many million of them, right? But can you monetize that? In my opinion, the bottom of the pyramid was too big.
Too big.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And maybe to add on to that really quickly is it's actually okay if you have it be like the sales cycle, operations, that's obviously one downside, but I think another downside people don't see, especially if someone outside try to get in, it's like oftentimes there's a lot of these little negotiations that happens in the little deals, and that kills it, right? It's like, if I were MRR, can we make the terms of payment, 60 days, 45 days. Yeah, I know it's 30 days now in the contract, but can we just extend it by freaking days? If they're not, then they're like, let me ask my boss about that. And that just extends the sales cycle and thing. And
So
all these opportunities.
I'll share something. So there are a handful of SaaS companies, and one of them I've worked for as well in the past, who have done exceedingly well in Indonesia, right? They're not Indonesia-based or built SaaS companies. Some have come from India, some from Turkey, other places, right? And I was just trying to analyze what really went well for these guys. And they're sitting on good 800K, 1 million ARR, MRR, sorry, right? Which is pretty big
In Indonesia.
Yeah.
in Indonesia,
Yeah.
right? That's very impressive, right? And once I started just getting deeper into it, I figured what really helped it. So the help came in because most of these guys, they entered the market around 2015, 2016. Okay. And initially, they were only selling to startups, right? And it was easier. Sales cycles were very small when you were selling to startups back then. So within
Because they're trying to burn the money. That's why.
2 months, and it was all OPEX, right? Because I mean, yeah, you add this marketing automation platform, you'll get more engagement. Your DAUs are going to increase and blah, 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 blah. And what happened is that in the next 3-4 years, while the startup sales cycle was like 1.5 months to 2 months for them to close, they started working on enterprises. And because they were there for such a long time and they had some customers to back them, from a credentials perspective, enterprises started to entertain them. They were comfortable with a year or 1.5 year sales cycle with enterprises because the pressure was less.
Yeah.
You already have a decent MRR going on. Your production, your development, everything is offshore.
And I think that's why if VCs had invested more in this kind of business, there'd have been so much more success. Because the problem has always been, even for me, it's always been, shit, we need to get going. Luckily, I never really got into the startup business because our product, again, it wasn't our product is about making money. It wasn't built for it.
It wasn't built for startup.
It never really worked. But exactly, I mean, exactly that. And I also think there's another issue here. Indonesians, you'll see all the ministers banging on the table about local. They don't do anything to support the local tech. Most of the tech distributors is overseas tech. They don't have any preference. I mean, we were told when I came here that the government would want to work with us if we built the product locally. We do everything local. You stay local. Yes, head office stay local. We were one of the only tech companies that had head office here for a long time, but we didn't get any support. We didn't. When we were competing against foreign companies who had no offices here, that would have been. When you see these guys banging on the table going about buy local and stuff, I know that's nonsense because I've worked with them directly. There's no, and then you find most of the big distributors who are not having a go at because they distribute my product. But we're one of the first foreign local products they've ever distributed. They don't buy. When I first met these guys years ago, we don't sell Indonesian software. So all this nationalism and bullshit you hear, these things, they're not interested in supporting their own people. And that's and that's why I've got a big mouth, maybe, because I've done it. And these guys who sit there and talk about it have done jack shit. It's kind of frustrating. And that's one of the reasons they'd rather buy Turkish software than Indonesian. And certainly the US, I mean, Jesus Christ, SAP must sell how much here, right? People are more interested in the companies that the brand name, and they talk all about building locally, but even they're more interested in VinFast than building their own EV. It's a middle market economy, and that's the problem. They're okay at building these apps that can front run a few rich kids and get them rich. But when it comes to focusing on real delivery over multiple years, the appetite is not there for spending 10 years building a product. And when people look at Zuckerberg, all them guys, number one, they're older companies still. And these companies have took more than a decade.
Okay.
That's how business will take. I'm under no illusions. I've been doing this 7 years and I'm nowhere near there. But most of these people, I mean, and I've spent nowhere near. I've come in 4 countries. The amount of money I spent is so much less than a lot of these like just ads, because it was all on the marketing and getting users at any cost. So I think maybe it's going to change now, but and people see some direction and some guys doing it properly. But the problem was the money wasn't there in the market. Even the wealthy kids didn't want to do that because they knew how to make more money investing in 10-minute grocery deliveries or something, right? Which hasn't worked anywhere in the world, to be honest.
Apart from India.
And yes, it worked. They were copied off Gorillas, right? Gorillas, it went in Europe, it went wrong.
India, it's worked really well. They're public, profitable.
Really?
Yeah, they're. So there's Zomato, which is food delivery plus grocery delivery.
Because the margins are all thin.
Margins are very thin, but the unit economics is very different back then. I think that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
we'll do it.
Interesting.
Let's the closing thoughts, and that's majorly on the AI part, right? 2026, we need to speak about AI.
Do we really? Yes. Kind of tired of it. No, can we not move into? Can we just? I think we should ban it. Every time somebody says the word AI in my office, they've got to put 20,000 rupee in a box, swear box.
Look, Marvel is building on top of what the existing layer and architecture is available in AI, right? So it's building agents and a lot more for different businesses. I want to understand, Marvel, from you especially. Are you seeing any sort of skepticism when you guys are making those pitches? That, I mean, does this really work, or what's the feedback you're getting on ground?
I don't think so. I think the skepticism phase is over. I think the skepticism phase is over. I think everyone is most of the time quite bought into the fact that AI can help them. They see the potential. Most of the time they fully try it themselves, and even at some points it's not skepticism but overconfidence. They're like, look, this AI is great, let me just fire everyone. I'm like, wait, hold up, like let me reset.
You get some skepticism from me.
Will come, let him complete.
Yeah, sometimes as well. So I think a lot of the skepticism, when it was back then, I think that's most of it is already over, I would say. I think the hard part about AI is I'll say the hard part about AI right now is not really about the potential of AI. I think everyone believes in the potential, everyone believes in the value. You're like, okay, this is great, but as is how I alluded to a little bit, I feel like people are underestimating how hard it is for AI to perform in production. In fact, now. So I think it's a weird curve. It's almost like, okay, everyone was skeptical of AI, but AI boom happened, etc. Again, AI was pre-ChatGPT, there's still AI, there's like chatbots, LLMs.
Yeah.
Then AI boom happened. It's like, oh, dude, AI is amazing. It can do everything for me. It's like great. And then now I think we are hopefully setting back a little bit to reality and realize that, oh shit, like getting to production AI is actually hard. Like getting it to the demo.
Production enterprise AI
It's hard.
Which works under all the regulations
And makes money.
Because
Because OpenAI is the biggest loss-making company in the history of the world.
Right.
So I mean, they need about 5% of the world's GDP to survive.
Is it?
The amount of money that Sam Altman says they need, like how many $1 trillion? I think for what he said, I mean, I think one of the problems is it's overbroked. When you start talking about AI, everyone's an AI evangelist, right? I mean, every time I go to a meeting, I see an AI evangelist or a thought leader, and that's the problem, because people at my age group look at it and go, no, not another AI, rather than actually looking at it, right? That's it. And also, I don't know about AI agents, but yeah, there's still an issue with age. I mean, I've just had a huge fallout with LinkedIn because if I talk to their agent one more time, everything they said was wrong. I mean, it just got boring. It went on for weeks. This is LinkedIn, one of the most powerful, biggest companies in Silicon Valley. It's just useless because it can't do everything. And there should be a way to live with it. Like Traveloka is one of the good ones where basically the simplified stuff they deal with and then they give you a person.
Yeah.
But they're nowhere near the level they need to be.
That's exactly what Marvel.
Yeah, nowhere near the level they need to be at.
One is you're talking about a production grade, production ready AI implementation. And then you need to have that ease of human transfer, human interaction, human takeover.
People are quite cheap in Southeast Asia. So you've got to be able to actually save money. I mean, I'll give an example. Coming into this office, you play around with your phone for half an hour, and then you go and meet the girl who's still there on the counter to make sure you played around with your phone. To get up. You know, I mean, this is like technology for everything that's bad about technology. You are doing the job twice. No, people have lost their jobs, which is nice. But why can't I just go to that girl and go through? And this is all about, we're a tech company now. Everyone wants to be a tech building. We've got this tech thing. And I think from my perspective, like you said, we've been using AI since day one, but in a different way. AI to do predictive analytics on the data. You know, so we look at huge amounts of data and then make predictions for companies. But yeah, one of the things I think the overbroke, I think, is one of the issues, because people like me get turned off by it, because literally constantly called by some dude who's an AI evangelist, and last year he was doing something completely different. Now, if you say I'm building an AI company, I get it. But here there's like all these AI companies and all these, AI, what's it called? Like groups. And a lot of these guys on these AI groups, I'm not having a go at them. They haven't been doing AI for many years before. They haven't had lots of jobs before. They might have done a 28-day course. You know what I mean? And they're going around like they're leading the advising the government on that. Now you compare that to the UK. The UK's got many problems, but the guy who's advising the government's 29-year like doctor from some university who's been looking at this before anyone knew about it. And same in Singapore. But here, some of the guys at that level, they're very young. And they're very connected, right? So, and people know who I'm talking about, and I've got nothing against any of them personally, but it doesn't look good when this is what happens. So again, it looks like some of this AI that they're talking about is more to get the valuations up, more chat. It's the same group of people now. Now, my friends at some of the VCs are all AI experts, and it just sounds like, it's the next bubble for them to jump into. From my perspective, the problem with that is the guys doing things properly get judged the same way. And I think that's the challenge, right? If people are doing things properly, they get dragged into this AI boom.
So I personally feel what Marvel and his team, which is trying to build at Covena, it's very needed for the market,
right?
But it's going to be very difficult, the journey, which is the case with all SaaS in Indonesia. Right? So it's not only...
But first, you build the product like we did. You just buy stuff that nobody wants.
Yeah.
You build stuff that nobody wants at first.
Yeah. So there's a very weird curve to it. Closing notes, you have already expanded, Martyn, to Japan, Vietnam, Singapore.
Yeah, and again, what he said is correct. We took time to do it. Sure. Number one, resources, but also the product I couldn't do it 2-3 years ago. The product had to be robust.
Yeah.
The product had to be a level that, okay, there's going to be people out there better than me. Sure. You know, Place AI have raised hundreds of millions of dollars. I think raised 200. So they're big. You know, some of these big European companies. I had a meeting with the CEO of MyTraffic a few weeks ago. So we're not going to be the best everywhere, but I believe with our network, and of course, the product certainly has to be robust enough.
Sure.
Because I can walk into meetings in Japan with the CEO of NTT, the CEO of Hitachi, but if the product's not good enough, it's not a pure relationship-based thing.
Sure.
You've still got to deliver. So yeah, we're office in 4 countries now.
Sure.
And we're talking to some investors at the moment and hope to maybe be in 10 countries early next year. Because actually we've all got clients like Jardines out of Hong Kong, which is DFI Group, which is Guardian here, 7-Eleven in Singapore. We've already got an Asia contract with them here in Vietnam. So I want to go, and I've already met the CEO in Hong Kong. So people like Danone, they use us here. They want to use us in other countries. SC Johnson uses here, want to use it. So I think that was, once the software works, and once you've been tested, but I couldn't have done that in the early years because, as you said, the talent there's 2 ways to look at this. I can beat in certainly Place AI and Kato here because the software is too expensive to sell here because they built it in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
But if somebody in Japan would rather pay 10 times more for a better product.
Yeah.
So when you're here, you're very cost sensitive. In Japan, it's about product sensitive. So I think that's the huge difference as well. So and when he said, now I'm paying, I've got a couple of ex-NVIDIA guys in my Vietnam and they're expensive, man. It is expensive. They're not like $2,000 a month. Yeah. So, but I had to do it. I had to do it. My CEO goes, CTO said, do you want a serious product? You bring these guys in. They know what they're doing. But you can't do that straight away. What you could have done if some of them VC dollars hadn't been going on, I don't know.
SaaS way.
No, whatever they were going into. Yeah.
Marvel, how about you? You guys are expanding?
Yeah, we're expanding to Singapore. Malaysia is also an interesting market we're looking into as well. And obviously Indonesia winning more so in the enterprise motion, I think.
So your journey is going to be very different to Martyn's, especially given the fact that there are there's too much competition in the space which you're operating.
There's what?
Lot of competition in the space in which you're operating, right? I mean, there are quite a few companies which are building agents for processes, for products. It's going to be a very interesting journey for you.
But the good thing is that at least people know what it is, you know what I mean? Even though I'm not a real expert on this, our biggest issue was educating the client.
Yeah, in this case, that's not the problem.
So we read it the way around.
Yeah.
A little competition.
Yeah.
You had to explain location intelligence.
Correct.
What? What? I remember talking to Pak Sosro years ago, who owns McDonald's and Sosro. I remember talking to him, and he says, "Yeah, but boss, we're already very successful. We sell lots of tea bottle, and we use feng shui." Feng shui. So I was like, "Oh, I can't win this argument." So yeah, I mean, people just did not know what location intelligence was, which surprised me because I'm not a tech guy. And when I sat down and went through this product, I could understand straight away because I've invested in property, location. If I can find the best location, it's obviously going to help people. There's so many examples here where you've got businesses at 24 hours and we can do the proof that no one even passes there at night time. So what's the point? You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of common sense, but no competition maybe, no big scale competition, even in other countries, not a lot, mainly there's big American companies.
Yeah.
But it's expensive to buy. Their product here is like 4 times ours, I'm sure, you know.
All right, guys. On that note, thank you so much for doing this. It was a lovely chat. Best of luck.
Cheers, buddy. Sure, I'll see you again. I'll be reading your quotes anyway. And you got on his WhatsApp, mate. He's got quotes.